What are the challenges that we are facing right now in the industry in Latam?
Challenges and opportunities. First of all, opportunities because it's a market which we see more and more countries there wanting to legislate, wanting to regulate for gambling, for online gambling. And the challenges are in saying, as an industry, we want to have regulation that works, regulation that is sustainable for the long term, and we like it to be based on a little bit of evidence. So what we at Playtech are trying to do, what we have been doing over the last 2 years, I would say, is by way of wanting to be part of that informed debate, is trying to say, like, listen, there's the players, there's the consumers, what do they want to do? So we have been carrying out consumer surveys, not ourselves, but by a third polling company, and asking those questions to consumers. What is it that you want about regulation? What are your concerns about gambling, about online? Is it your data? Would you like to have controls in place to be sure that gambling is fun and remains an entertainment for you? Are you happy with the way that things are rolled out at the moment? And those kind of insights, which we had one book we published so far, an ebook, another one that's coming out, which we can then take to the regulators or to the decision makers and say, we would like to be part of this debate, we would like to help you, help us in a way, and share those insights. It's consumer insights. And I think that is really important, to be able to take something to the table when you're talking to regulators and to say, listen, this is what your consumers are saying about your markets. Let's make sure that if you're rolling out legislation, at the end of the day, your players, your consumers are playing within those websites that are under your local control. And I think that's quite key.
But it's a little bit difficult in Brazil because we don't have a real regulation.
In Brazil, we're still waiting, but also in Chile, in Peru, not exactly the same, but on that path, that there is discussion going on. Of course, everybody would like to see regulation immediately, but what we're doing is like, listen, in the interim, while in Brazil they just had elections, right? So as any country, you have a new government coming in. But we're saying you can still continue doing your groundwork, that base work. That doesn't go away. Everyone knows the players are out there playing. Online is there, it's accessible to anyone, but let's try to understand what are the concerns of players. So anytime when that moment is opportune, again, you can take that with you to the policymakers and you can help them understand more what their market looks like right now and what it can look like. So yeah, it's challenges, but it's also opportunities.
And how Playtech works with operators and authorities to ensure a responsible gambling?
Well, there's part of the collaboration we like to say. We talk about fact-finding, we talk about evidence-based, so you want to be able to take something to the regulators. At Playtech, what we do have, in addition to all the engagement we do with influential stakeholders on the ground, a couple of years back now, we acquired a company called BetBuddy. It's part of Playtech Protect more broadly, and essentially what that is doing is using AI, so using data, using technology, which works to an extent in the background, to be able to say, let's see what the players are doing, the markers of harm, some call them, so whether you're playing too much and you're spending too much money or you're spending too long online, and we're trying to say, let's see what that data tells us, and let's intervene as early as possible. So the key element here is not intervening only when it's a problem gambler and then you need the treatment. We're trying to say intervene as early as possible. Identify when there are signs that the player could become problematic, and based on AI, based on that data and the explainability of it, you can also then intervene with the player on the basis of what they're showing. And this is important because, for example, if you introduce, for an example, a £10 limit, right? Yeah. That's as if you're treating every single player the same. But every individual, every person is different. So we're saying, let's see what those signs of risky play were, and let's intervene with the player, because you can interact with the player on the basis of what has been identified. So if, for example, you have spent more time or more money online according to what the data is showing, the messaging with you will be targeted to exactly spot that behavior, to help you, of course, at the end of the day, come back in line. And if it is a break that you need, then you go and take that break. Because what we don't want and what we shouldn't want as an industry is to have problem gamblers. And that's, it's an entertainment industry, of course, It has some risks, of course, but there's a lot we can do these days to make sure that we are preventing that risky play as much as possible.
Yeah, and it seems that it's a very detailed work, so it's very personalized.
It is very personal because you are looking at each individual, at each player, but at the end of the day it's in the interest of everyone to get it as right as possible. And I think another interesting part of being able to use that data, the explainability of it, is that even the researchers out there, they need to understand when somebody goes, if you have a problem gambling, what type of problem is it, so that they can treat you accordingly. And I think these days we can use a lot of data. We as Playtech also like to do trials. You're a supplier, so you have the benefit of being able to work with a lot of operators, but use those trials, again the research, again the evidence, to take that to the influencers, to the key stakeholders on the ground, to say this is what the data is telling us. So when you are doing your regulations, we'd like to help you as much as possible. We can't make the decisions for the regulators, of course not, but we're giving you that data, we're giving you the evidence to help you then set out the regulations that will work in the long run.
Great. So, and how AI is changing the experience of players?
I think the beauty of it is because it's very, in my view, it works in the background. So again, for example, if a regulation says like, oh, every 30 minutes you should have a message which pops up on the screen telling the player they have to take a break. Nothing wrong with that, of course, but what we're saying is like with the use of AI, you can have something that is genuinely working in the background, making sure that you're looking at the behavior of player constant. It's like a 24/7 monitoring in reality, and then you can have the interaction accordingly. But you only intervene contrary to a pop-up message at the moment when the behavior of an individual player is telling you that you should intervene. So at the moment when it's needed, but also in the manner that is needed. And I think this is the real beauty of it. So it's working in the background, not interrupting play unless and when it is necessary.
So it's like using the technology to help, in fact, people to be responsible.
You are using the technology, yes. I mean, again, in our interest to keep the regulations workable in the long run, to keep the industry sustainable in the long run. Because at the end of the day, if, as a simple example, if the number of problem gamblers had to genuinely go up, then there's something really wrong that we as an industry are doing. So by using this, we are making sure that we are keeping it evidence-based, and that we are making sure that the players are having fun, because this is what it should be, fun and not a problem gambler. You don't want that.
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much.
Most welcome. Thank you very much.
Last day of ICE, we are here with Pedro, Regional Director of Playtech. So, can you comment about Playtech's plans to 2023?
Hi. Good afternoon. The plans for Playtech for 2023 in LATAM in general are to grow our existing market share in different countries. We have a really strong presence in Mexico, in Brazil, in Colombia. So the idea is to grow the existing market share, and then at the same time leverage all our services, all our expertise that we have in regulated markets. So regulated markets is very important as a company. We are very strong in many regulated markets, especially in Latin America. Then as well, our importance is to leverage our technology in terms of responsible gaming. We're very, very powerful in that, in terms of responsible gaming, and yes, that's a little bit the idea.
So you think Brazil there is place to grow in Brazil?
Yes. We just launched with Galera a few months ago, and now we're going to launch with more and more clients there. So Galera is a strategic partner for Playtech in the market, and now there's other clients coming very shortly.
Great, thank you very much.
Pleasure, thank you.